Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, the reunion. Let's watch.
How's it going, buddy?
Okay, so we're gonna get right into it. Trevor, hi. When the season premiered, people were posting, "Protect Trevor at all costs." And if anyone hurts Trevor, they're dead to me.
Wow, they're really going after people, this reunion. I didn't even know that. I mean, I sent that survey out right after episode 6, and if I remember right, yeah, a lot of people really liked Trevor. And, in the edit, makes sense. But, we can never know. I think they're about to lead up to something that contradicts this sentiment.
Then, something came out that shocked everyone. Screenshots came out on the internet, which were allegedly between you, Trevor, and the girlfriend that you had at the same time that you were participating in this experiment.
I think this is good that they're doing this. I think it's moral to do this because for people to go on the show and not be legitimately on the show, I mean, selfishly, the show is like, we don't want that because it ruins our brand and it means that we're wasting money on that person, wasting film on that person. But from my perspective, to do that is in the realm of psychopathy, to trick another human being. Like what people think now is that he was not genuine when he was interacting with Chelsea. To play with someone else's life, you're playing with their heart, you're playing with their mind, you're playing with their life, you're playing about marrying them. And the amount of lies and the lack of emotion, the lack of empathy that you would have to sit there in the pods for hours at a time, lying and lying and lying and deceiving, hearing them react to you, hearing them say how much they're into you and how they're thinking about spending the rest of your life with you. And the whole time, you are not genuine about this. That's horrific. We talk about catfishing, and this is kind of akin to that. It's not the same, but we often will attack catfishing people, catfishers, when they grab some model's picture and then they weasel their way into a vulnerable person's life and then they extract money, string them along for a couple years. We know that that is awful. This is worse because at least with catfishing, the individual has a chance to know that maybe this isn't genuine. I'm not blaming victims. It's totally understandable that people would fall for this, especially before it became more well-known. But in this situation, the person is real. They're really there, right? It's not natural to think that someone is lying the entire time. The only way that these individuals who would do this on the show would be exonerated if they had good enough reason to believe that everyone is there as a joke. And so they are 100% positive that the Chelseas and the others are also just playing along to get on camera. That's a stretch. There is no possible way that I could be convinced, I think, that anyone would have any viable reason to be 100% sure that everybody on the show is there as a joke. Because if they weren't filmed all the time, then we would wonder, because if they, for example, would, during the pods, they're not in the pods, they're like at a resort and the cameras are only there occasionally, then the cast members, like Trevor, would go on there, and then as soon as he could, he would tell Chelsea, hey, by the way, I'm just here to just get on camera, so I hope you're not taking me seriously. And then Chelsea's like, oh, wow, okay, well, let's play along. Or I don't want to do that. Maybe. But in the pods, they don't have that opportunity to conspire, so there's no way that Trevor would know that, because, if Trevor says, hey, by the way, I'm just joking, that's caught on camera, they're going to get kicked off. So there's no way that that Trevor would know that Chelsea was honest or genuine or not. And I think a lot of us would believe that Chelsea was absolutely being genuine, as I think a lot of people are. Now, The other out is that Trevor and others would legitimately be going on the show saying, this isn't going to work. I'm just going to go on and have fun. Who cares? You get there, start to get into it, and then you think, well, maybe, but still, this isn't going to work. And then you start going on some dates, and you're just like, well, maybe, but no. And then you meet someone, you're like, well, maybe, and then you start out as it was a joke, and then eventually you get to a place where it's real. That's also possible. There would almost be no way to demonstrate if or otherwise, right? Because it's all in his heart. It's all in his mind, right? And if he said those things, one would just say those things to get out of it. But at the very least, people should not, most of the people going on this show are, I think, strangely into it, but they're into it. Well, maybe not strangely, because, a certain amount of people do succeed. So, it's sort of like you go out on a Hinge date. What's the likelihood that this is going to blossom into a soulmate, forever marriage relationship? I think most people would say, pretty low. But the chance of going on this show and at the end actually being in a marriage, that's legit, although is not a very large percentage, but a lot more of a percentage, right? So, you can see people going on the show. Although when I think about it, because I did a count, I'm just trying to think about the exact percentage. Let's actually do a calculation. So we have 18 people that are currently married. Although you could include the two couples that got divorced. I think they legitimately got married. So we could say 11. So 22 people divided by 150 cast members. That's about a 15% chance. That's pretty good to get married. An even higher percent chance that you would go on a honeymoon with somebody. That percent is 70. Yeah, 70 divided by 150 is, it's almost 50% chance. Is that true? 35 featured couples I counted. So that's 70 people. And you have 150 cast members total, right? Because you have 30 a season. Oh, no, that's not 100. That's not 150. What am I doing? It's 180. Those percentages are off. Sorry. Measure twice, cut once. So we have 22 people out of 180. So you have a 12%. Again, not terrible. And then you have 70 divided. I knew that 70 divided by 150 sounded funny. You have about a 39% chance, almost a 40% chance of going to, So anyway, I think a lot of people go on the show legitimately, and they're in it to win it. To just have it be played around with people that are in the beginning just joking, and they're open to maybe something growing. It's just like, just go on a different reality show, or just don't go on. Like, there's so many other things you could do. Like, if you went on The Bachelor and you were just joking, or you were, especially if you're one of the many, like on The Bachelor, if you're one of the many women, then yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do that, and it's not a big problem, because the chance that, I think there's 30 people, the chance that you're going to get to the end is so small. And as you get closer to the end, you could sort of just sabotage yourself so that you're not in that situation. And plus, there's not a lot of interacting like the way that happens here. So there are other shows where I think it would be less of a problem. I still don't think that it's okay. It's lying. Any kind of lying is wrong. Don't lie. Don't lie.
Yes, in fact, you were texting her as you were traveling here and as soon as you left the pods. We actually have the text, so let's go ahead and take a look.
Show the receipt.
Wow. I don't think we've seen this. Usually this is just social media stuff. And I wonder if we can trust, because I'm always wondering, even if like a People magazine has an article, I'm always like, well, who knows? I doubt they do much fact checking. I mean, I'm not saying Netflix or Kinetic is somehow elevated above that kind of journalism, but I would just imagine that there'd be a little bit more fact checking. And maybe Trevor will even say, yes, this happened.
Yes, in fact, you were texting her as you were traveling here and as soon as you left the pods.
Right. I wanted to rewind it to when it was happening. So as he's going to the pods and after he left, after he got broken up with by Chelsea.
We actually have the text. So let's go ahead and take a look.
Show the receipt.
I love you so much, honey.
Yeah, okay. I love you so much, honey. I'm excited for it. What's it? But more excited to get back to you after and start our life together. I'm excited for it. I don't know what that means. Maybe like the show coming out or something. Now, there's a possibility that he loved her before and after and was also open to, I mean, I'm really trying to be charitable here, but it is possible, right? That you are really into someone and you just know that it's not really going to work out long term. And so you go on a show thinking, well, it's not likely this is going to work either, but we'll see. Then you meet Chelsea and you're like, well, maybe. And then you start to get into the experiment and you're mostly into it, or at least into it enough to go to the getaway and beyond, because I imagine a fair amount of people are getting engaged thinking like, well, I'm still kind of unsure here, but maybe, So this is charitable to him. He gets dumped and then he's leaving and he feels lonely and he's sad. And he, I'm guessing a number of you have been in that position where you have kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, but like a standby person that is there for you, whether you're exploiting that person or not. You might be each other's standby and might use the L word in those conversations. I think that's absolutely possible. It's also possible that he's a total D-bag and a psychopathic liar and highly problematic. That's a possibility. There's a lot of range in between there.
I'm excited for it, but more excited to get back to you after and start our life together.
She responded with, did you land?
Then, skipping to when you left the pods, you again wrote, do you still love me?
She says, pumpkin, I'm crying.
Trevor then says, can I call you in 30 minutes?
She said, I missed you so much.
Okay, I like the recreation by Nick and Vanessa. This is all consistent with the range that I'm thinking.
Trevor wrote, I love you more than anything in this world, and I'm going to marry you.
I mean, it's certainly, well, that bit pushes it in a direction. There's still a chance that the charitable narrative is somewhere in there. But yeah, if he's saying I'm going to marry you, I'm still going to marry you, my God, that's pretty hard to misinterpret. Wow. We were always, wow. What?
She says, yes, call me, I can't wait.
Trevor says, I hope you know how much I love you, and had to pretend that this wasn't real life to say anything I said.
She responds.
Well, let's rewind this, because we don't usually get this kind of proof. So I really want to make sure that I'm hearing this right.
Call you in 30 minutes.
She said, I missed you so much.
Trevor wrote, I love you more than anything in this world, and I'm going to marry you.
I love you, and I'm going to marry you. Going to marry you. I thought it was I'm still going to marry you, because that would even make it more damning, right? It's like a recognition that this whole time, but I'm going to marry you. I guess there's still a sliver of a chance of a charitable narrative where he is coming out of the pods. He went to the pods kind of flippant, but then he's like, well, maybe with Chelsea it doesn't work out. He comes out and he's just like, no, I've realized now that I really want that kind of relationship. And so I'm going to go to my standby that we treat each other that way. Although the only way that they would have these receipts is if the woman submitted them, right? It's not like Netflix has access to phone records. So I wonder if we'll hear from that person and she'll say, he played me too. He's a psychopathic liar. He conned me as well. Is that what we're going to hear?
She says, yes, call me, I can't wait.
Trevor says, I hope you know how much I love you.
And then she says, yes, call me, I can't wait. So to her, it's not coming out of nowhere. She's not saying, whoa, so you changed your mind, or, oh, so the show didn't work out for you. It's like, yeah, I know we're going to get married, so call me.
And had to pretend that this wasn't real life.
I hope you know how much I love you, and I had to pretend, I had to pretend that this wasn't real life to say, and had to pretend that this wasn't real life to say anything I said. It's a weird construct, to real life to say anything I said. Not sure. I think what he's saying is, hey, you know that when I went on the show, it was all pretend. I mean, there's a further narrative that he was lying to everybody and was psychopathically trying to find, like, this woman that he's engaged to. He is like secretly thinking, well, I'll string her along. I don't really know if I want to be with her anyway. I'll go on this show and I'll tell her in particular that this is just a joke. You're just, even though it's not really a joke to him entirely. He goes on, he meets Chelsea, and he's just like, oh, maybe I'll be with her and I'll lie through my teeth this whole time. And if Chelsea picks me, then after the pods, I will make that choice or string two people along or something. I mean, it's kind of looking like that, right? And wow.
To say anything I said.
She responds with, it's okay, pumpkin.
Now, Trevor, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
And I know some people will say, well, you know, men will do this. No, we look into this. There's research. Now, maybe someone out there knows a number of men who have done this, or you think you have seen that when it wasn't necessarily always something like this. But if it is the way that it looks, this is a very particular set of personality traits that would lead someone to do something like this. There's callous behavior. Like, even if we go with, I think, the main hypothesis about Jeremy and his behavior, which includes fairly callous behavior and potentially even very severe abuse, even for someone like Jeremy, the kinds of things that are potentially being seen here with Trevor are, you know, they pale in comparison to what I think we're seeing here. But I don't know. We have very little data, so let's see what he says.
Yeah, me
Certainly
too.
a lot to unpack there. I think not only Vanessa and I, but everyone on this stage would love to hear what you have to say about that.
It kind of looks like he didn't know he was going to get confronted, which is interesting. Now, I wonder what will happen, but he at first is, I think, exhibiting a persona that he leans into. Now, we'll see. We'll wait, but there's a chance what we're seeing right here is a very manipulative set of behaviors of, like, I'm a little boy and I'm hurt and confused.
Nah, say it with your chest. Don't get quiet now. Don't get quiet now.
What did AD say? Say it with your chest? Is that another thing I'm gonna have to Google?
Nah, say it with your chest.
Say with your chest. I mean, I'm gonna take by context that means that stop acting. I don't know.
I had a whole thing planned to say.
So it sounds like he did know that this was happening, which is interesting. So he's glitching, or it's an act, or what?
I don't know.
Okay, this doesn't look good for him, because if there was any sort of a viable explanation, it would not be hard to say that right now. Right? It wouldn't be hard. If there's anything close to a viable explanation, like, the charitable perspective that I have is somewhere close to, yeah, those texts make it look like I was going on the show in a way that was illegitimate, that I was lying to everyone. And yeah, maybe I was kind of initially going on the show insincerely, but there was a part of me that was kind of hoping it would work. So there's that. Number two, my relationship with this person is very complicated. And it's been on and off again for a long time. And regarding those texts, you have to remember, I just got dumped by Chelsea, and it was pretty hard for me. You didn't see that in the edit really, but it was hard. And it's a pretty intense thing in the pods. And so I reached out to this woman that I date on and off with. We have kind of a friendship / relationship. And I wanted comfort, and so I did that. It looks like something different, and I get that, but it was something. It wouldn't be hard, but this looks to me like he is trying to invent something. That's the premise behind lie detector tests, which are not effective, but it is based on some science that lying takes more effort because you can't speak naturally and you can't rely on your memory because you don't have. Now, some people will invent memories or they'll practice lying so that it is more natural. And that is one of the ways that you can beat these lie detector tests. But if you have to work at it, your brain starts to work really hard because you have to come up with the lie. You have to literally create something that isn't true. And our natural inclination is to tell the truth. It feels a little disjointed or uncomfortable for us because we know that we might receive backlash. And so there's a little bit of a fight or flight response, like, I'm about to do something. And also you have to predict, how is this going to come across? What did I say before? And will I be able to back this up later? Like, there's a lot of calculation that has to go into every single sentence. Whereas if you could just tell the truth, then you just rely on your memory and you just report what is in your brain, just how you remember things, right? So this could be glitching because he is trying to piece together a lie. He says that he practiced what he was going to say, and maybe he, in this moment, is thinking, oh, I didn't think this through enough. I don't think my lie was going to land. And now I'm trying to come up with, I don't know.
I guess I'll start by saying that I was not dating her technically. Like, I never said, will you be my girlfriend before the show started.
Yeah, it's in line with the charitable explanation. It could still be a lie, but at least that would kind of fit. Let's see what Elsie says.
Like, obviously we were close, but she knew she was the typical girl I'd go for in real life. And I told her before, like, I want to go on this to try to experiment something else.
Okay, it's all in line with my charitable explanation. And honestly, it's probably more likely something like this than it is that he's just a full-blown psychopathic. You'd have to be somewhat sadistic as well as psychopathic, because you would have to every day in the pods wake up, especially once you start locking in on Chelsea, and say, I'm going to harm this person. And I'm going to harm this woman outside the pods. Those people are out there. Con artists are out there. You know, I watched the Who the Fuck Did I Marry thing, and those people are out there. I don't know if that's what's happening with Legion, but it fits the profile in terms of the allegation. Those people are out there, but they're very rare. This is more likely. Is it a bad choice, potentially? Maybe. But there could be a very charitable, a very relatable, not moral, not immoral explanation. You know, he says all this, and then he says, like, he could even say, I actually was really going on the show legitimately, but looking at the text now, I think I was afraid of losing her in a weird way, because I didn't want to lose the chance of having her in my life and possibly even being with her forever. And I was going into the pods thinking, if I meet someone, because I believe that there's a better relationship out there. I mean, me and her, we definitely like work in a certain way, but not the way that I have in my head of what a relationship should look like. And so I thought maybe I'd be, and I thought Chelsea was that one. I did. And then when it didn't work out, I was lonely. And I also concluded, well, maybe my vision is unattainable and I've been stupid this whole time, and I should just be with her because we do work on a certain level. You know, I think that's much more likely. And it's it's more satisfying, I think, for the public to believe the negative point of view of him, because we all have demons that we're trying to expel as we watch these shows. I'm pretty sure that's like most of the reason why anyone even watches these things. By me watching the crowd and the way they react to this, not you, but I think a lot of people. And also it is the way that I tend to want to see the world. And I'll say it that way. It's a bias. It's a faith in humanity. I can't know if my faith is warranted, but it is the way I choose to see the world, and it usually works out that way.
And that, like, there's no justifying that. That sounds fucking horrible, what I just said in that. That is horrible. But I wanted to do this. Like, I wanted to meet somebody that I wouldn't go for in real life. This fucked up.
Yeah, this is all in line. He could be lying. And what do you think? Do you believe this or do you not? Now, I'm wondering how they got their hands on the texts. I'm guessing he broke up with her, or they had a falling out, and then out of anger, she publicized the receipts. So I guess we'd have to talk to her, and she would know him much better, right? And if she said, yeah, generally he's a good guy, but he pissed me off, or he did these bad things, like he cheated on me toward the end or something, which is still bad, but on the scale of things, it's not as bad as being a psychopathic liar. Or would she say, no, he had other women, he was lying to me about that, and don't believe him right now because I've seen this before and this is his whole thing. She would know.
Or, like, I want to go on this to try to experiment something else. And that, like, there's no justifying that. That sounds fucking horrible, what I just said in that. That is horrible. But
I don't know if he's saying it's horrible to that woman, because that woman, the other woman, might actually have been mostly okay with it or had accepted it. You know, he wasn't lying to her. She could have broken up with him, right? She could be like brainwashed or something, who knows? But I think he's saying it's horrible because the way that it looks, or he feels bad for having treated her that way or something like that, you know, and everyone's like shaking their head. But I don't know. I feel like there's a version of the story that is not deplorable the way that I think everyone would assume based on the details. You know, when you actually talk the way, you know, one of the things about being a therapist is you learn that there's a lot of options for life that are not necessarily dysfunctional the way that everyone thinks that it is. I don't know. We'd really have to talk to the other woman. You know, if she said something like, yeah, we had an on and off in a relationship. We had a very loving relationship. And it was a long time. And I was, you know, willing to marry him, but I did understand where he's coming from, where he just didn't feel like we were the best sort of match because we would break up occasionally. And both of us would date other people sometimes, and we'd find out that, well, it seems like there would be a better relationship than our relationship, but there really isn't. But then sometimes I wonder if I'm always relying on this person to save me after loneliness. I'll never find someone else. You know, it's a real common scenario, right? And then when he decided that he wanted to go on the show, it was just kind of another version of that. And he did, and I was both hoping the best for him and also hoping he wouldn't meet anyone, because I didn't want to lose him to someone else, because if he did meet someone, then there's a chance that she wouldn't even want me around in his life. And but I don't know. I was really conflicted. And then he went on the show, and then it apparently didn't work out. And then he seemed very committed to me afterwards, which I thought was, whoa, I didn't really, you know, there's a version of the story where she was not harmed and it was just messy. And that's how life is sometimes.
I wanted to do this. Like, I wanted to meet somebody that I wouldn't go for in real life. This fucked up that I was acted like that with someone else right before going on and right after. But I went in with the mindset of, like, I will find someone. Like, I want to try it.
Yeah, and people aren't going to believe that, because in the text he's saying he's just going on as a joke, or he's not super serious, and he had a girlfriend or some sort of relationship heading right up until the time he had to hand his phone over, and the relationship was still present as soon as he gets the phone back. But it's possible. I will allow for the possibility that he is completely lying through his teeth. Absolutely. And I think he knows that it could come across that way. And honestly, the way that he comes across right now, it lends itself towards credibility because, we see Jeremy, the way he reacts when he's caught red-handed, and he just denies because the personality that was present and motivated or allowed him to do it in the first place is still around to very strangely deny reality, whereas he is not doing that. He could have done that, or just imagine what Jeremy would do in a situation like this. He would say, "She's lying. I don't know what to say. Those are fake." Or like with Big Ed on 90 Day Fiancé, he's been confronted with this kind of stuff, like when he was trying to get with Rose, I think while Ed and Liz were broken up, which people are going to do. It's not a high crime. It's not, and Liz didn't even think he was cheating necessarily, but he lies. He's like, that didn't happen. You're stupid. It never happened. What are you talking? She's lying. People do that. He's not doing that. He's not denying anything. He's saying, yes, that all happened. So it kind of says something, right? To me, it's a tick in the column of credibility. Because the thing about pathological liars, because you would have to be some sort of high-grade liar to do what he is being accused of. Those people, they don't just suddenly become honest. They have a hard time telling the truth when it doesn't even matter. And certainly when it serves them to lie, they will do everything in their power to lie. And it typically is easily detectable. Anyway, and I guess up to this point, I don't think anyone's going to believe him, is the thing. And that's kind of a tragedy because it's only a tragedy if he's telling basically the truth here. Because if anyone's going to be hated, I don't think Trevor would be high on the list, but I think that might happen. Yeah. And I think there's a better response that he could be more convincing, like give more detail about the relationship with the woman, like, I don't know. And maybe I'm just trying to see it in a positive light or something. And also, I want to be clear, just full disclosure, from the beginning of watching Trevor, I was never like team Trevor. I mean, I'm never really team anybody, aside from maybe Marshall. But if anything, I was a little like, who is this Trevor guy? But generally, I was, whatever about him. So I don't have like a secret need or something to make him seem like he's good. So because I'm predicting that there's going to be a fair amount of you that are convinced that he is a psychopath. And maybe he is.
I don't fucking know.
Trevor, I got to ask you.
There is an answer for that.
You're saying I love you.
Yes.
To this woman as you're entering the experiment, as you're entering the pods.
Yes.
So to say, she wasn't really my...
So it's a good question. Yeah. And there's different kinds of love. There's a possibility that he's lying, but there are situations where it's like that I was talking about, where you love them romantically, but more importantly, you love them as an attachment figure, someone in your life, and that'll happen. The internet likes to think that is ridiculous or could never happen, or it's a reflection on his readiness, or it's a shame on him and Chelsea or something. But once you get older, past, I don't know, high school or college, you start seeing, there's a lot of variety in life. There's a lot of messy situations that don't cleanly fit into like a Disney movie. Like say that Chelsea did pick him, which she was pretty close to doing. And given everything that I'm seeing here also, I could see Chelsea and, well, God knows. I mean, God, can you imagine how triggering that would be to Chelsea? Golly. But anyway, let's say that they worked out and they get married, and well, it's hard to imagine it with Chelsea, but just imagine Trevor with anybody. Who could we throw in there? We could, AD maybe. Put Trevor and AD together. I could see that. I could see that working. So Trevor and AD, and they get married, and they love each other, and it's all the normal stuff. And if you talk to him behind the scenes, he would say, Well, there is this other woman that I had this on and off relationship with for a long time, and I do love her. There will always be a place in my heart, and AD knows about her and is okay with me being friends with her to a limit. And this is kind of a loss because I will have to pull back a lot from her. But we're way more than just romantic partners, me and her. We have a lot of history. We understand each other. We share a lot in common. We have a lot of good conversations. She's a little sad, just like I am, that we have to lose this, but she loves AD and she's totally supportive of that. Life's complicated. That's totally possible, right? I mean, I hope that sounds possible. And that could be what he was hoping would happen, right? Not that he wants to dump that woman, but he's never committed because he never thought it would actually work out. I guess I'll just say, as a jumping off point, I want to add that to the possibility if some of you aren't exposed to that possibility, because you might be even going through something like that. You might be Trevor in this version of the story before going on the pods, where you're having a relationship like that and you're thinking, what do I do? And then you have this motivation, like, maybe if I start dating other people, but I love this other person, how does this make sense? Is there something wrong with me? And what I'd say is no. There's a lot of people like that don't Instagram about that because they'll get blasted. Unless they're in the polyamorous community, then it's all fine. Like, you tell this story to the polyamorous people, they'd be like, yeah, I get it. I'm going through that right now.
You don't say I love you to someone you don't care about on that level.
Before. I mean, I did care about her.
So that's what you're going with. You didn't really love her. You told her you loved her.
No, I
okay,
did.
So I'm saying, how unfair is it to everyone on the stage? And I'll call out Chelsea directly, because there was a moment there where she easily.
Now, having said all that, Chelsea, even if the most charitable narrative is true, Chelsea has a legitimate gripe, because I don't think Trevor told her about this, which is not the polyamorous way, by the way. And Chelsea could say, you were a lot less available seeming than you were coming across. And I feel tricked. That'll do a number on Chelsea, by the way. Ooh, I mean, that'll kind of do a number on anybody. But that doesn't help Chelsea's working model of others. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.